Hi, everybody. Happy Thursday. Football is back today. Of course, week 4 upon us for the NFL. I'm Sean Drotar. That's Nate
It is
Lundy.
a thirsty Thursday.
Why is that?
Because it's Thursday and I already need a beer or 6.
Got it. Okay. Well, that makes sense.
I'm just throwing that out there.
So here we are on Mile High Sports today.
Sean, did you know, before we get into the really important stuff here,
some of it is really important.
Did you know that apparently Diddy's lawyer has said that the reason he had all the baby oil was because he lives close to Costco and he likes to buy in bulk? I'm going to let that float out there in the internet ether for a minute. Okay, so
Costco itself does sell a lot of things in bulk.
So let's talk about let's talk about the Broncos.
Yes, the Broncos got to live man, I have a whole thing I'm going to plan to start, and then Nate just throws that in
that's
there.
what happens when somebody tries to spin the story.
Spin is one thing.
All right.
It doesn't quite slide away. It's not that slick.
Oh, I see what you did there.
The Denver Broncos have challenges on their defense now. Yesterday, we talked about it. The news broke while we were on air yesterday. Alex Singleton, the Broncos' leading tackler over the last couple of years, and a guy whose career path has been on the upswing ever since he got to Denver, has torn the ACL in his knee. He will miss the rest of the season. That is obviously a big blow for a Denver Broncos defense that has not only really led the way for this team, but been far and away the best part and probably overachieved a little bit given the opposition that they have faced. Seattle's still undefeated. Pittsburgh is still undefeated. The team that Tampa's lost to is the Broncos, who held the Bucs to 7 points. So that is a major loss. Given the snap count earlier in this season thus far, Cody Barton is likely to be the immediate short-term starter in that position. He's been kind of subbing in for Singleton or been in there when they have had 2 inside linebackers. Barton's a veteran. That makes a lot of sense. The Broncos also signed veteran Quan Alexander, a pretty good linebacker in his own right. This is a blow for the Broncos because Alex Singleton racks up a ton of tackles, and he's gotten better as he's done it as well. I will say this, Nate, as much as I like Singleton, the player, as much as I like Singleton, the person, and certainly wish health and recovery goes as smoothly as possible, I actually don't think this is going to dramatically impact the Broncos defense because the nature of the position itself, like a running back, somewhat fungible.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with you there, but I do think it's going to impact the defense, at least in the short term, because when you have somebody that has been an anchor for you, if you will, and can be somebody that serves practically as your quarterback on that defensive side that everybody is used to.
Justin Simmons,
yes,
no longer there.
And so everybody's used to it, right? Like that's the best way that I can probably describe it. And so when that happens, yes, you can actually achieve the next man up mentality. But I don't necessarily believe in a lot of cases that, especially at a position like this that Singleton played, that it is a light switch where you just simply go from week 3 to week 4 and everybody's fine. I think that it may take a little bit of time for that defense to reset itself into a comfort zone of the 11 guys that are out there. So it's not necessarily that I don't agree that they can find some replacement to the productivity, to the stat sheet, if you will. Somebody that can go out there and get you 8-9 tackles a game, right? Tackles plus assists. It's not that I don't think that they can do that. It's that I think it takes a little bit for folks to be able to get comfortable with having a new teammate out there with them on the field. And some of that can be remedied by how quickly that person does sort of gel right in with the rest of the starting 10. But I do believe that part of it takes a little bit of time. I do think it's, by the way, redonkulous that happened in the first quarter and he continued to play. But that shows you what kind of player Alex Singleton is. And those are some of the things that are the intangibles that are not necessarily quick to be replaced.
That's absolutely true. And yeah, tore that ACL in the first quarter and played the rest of the game with it. Now ACLs are funny. When we go to Achilles injuries, we go to Nate.
Yeah, because it's happened.
And we'll talk about Aaron Rodgers in a little bit. We go to CL injuries. I'm your guy because I've torn all of them but the ACL. But at the same time, those where you're at, a lot of time you'll hear the pop and you'll hear the stress, but it doesn't hurt that much. So I can see it as being possible to you go out there. But Singleton's a tough guy. To get the idea of how important he's become and how effective he's become, his last year in Philadelphia, 2021, 11th in the NFL in tackles with 137. Coming to the Broncos in 2022, he jumped to 5th in the league at 163. Last year, he jumped all the way to 3rd in the league with 177. And this year in the early going, 8th in the league with 31 tackles in the 3 games, averaging more than 10 a game. So not easily replaced, even if the stats show that, yeah, you can probably funnel to someone and get 8-9 tackles in a game. But yes, there is a part of the stability, the reliability, as you pointed out. The short term will be tricky because you're used to having 49 in the middle. You're used to knowing what he does. Barton's a good linebacker. If they speed up Quan Alexander, he's a good linebacker. There's no reason to believe as a veteran he'd have a tough time going into this spot. Middle linebacker in a lot of ways, really, I referred to it as running back and the fact that it's interchangeable. To an extent, that's true because in today's offenses, those linebackers that play kind of the role that Singleton does, he's not really out there covering tight ends. He's there to support the run, to get the tackles, to be in that second line. And there are a lot of competent linebackers. It's not to say that they're all as good as Alex Singleton. If Cody Barton was, Cody Barton would be starting. So, I mean, that's just the reality of it. It will hurt the Broncos. But the Broncos defense is off to a very good start. And there is, we'll talk about it, there's another option perhaps that the Broncos could have available later in the season when health returns. But when you look at the way the Broncos defense has started this year, Nate, let me give you some of these terrific numbers. 133.3 passing yards against is second in the NFL. I get it. They play Justin Fields. So there are, as Mark Twain said, lies, damn lies, and statistics. Yeah. But the Broncos are going to have a good number against there, but it is second. The part that's interesting is their pressure rate on quarterbacks. 44.7%. That is tied for first in the league. Some of that's on the Broncos players. Some of that's on the hyper-aggressive defense, at least that Vance Joseph is putting together. 13 different Broncos had a pressure against Baker Mayfield against Tampa. And the blitz rate for the Broncos, how about this? 56.9%. Tops in the NFL. What in the Wade Phillips is going on with the Broncos defense?
Well, I think they took advantage of who their opponents were. I think there were some opportunities there where you could take some chances from a defensive standpoint because of the skill set and the offense and in particular the quarterbacks that you were facing on the other side. I think you had the ability to take some chances like that. They have some quarterbacks coming up in their schedule over the course of the next 4 or 5 weeks that you can't necessarily do that with because they will make you pay. And so I think you've got, I think, much the way that we talked yesterday, we were talking about the running game. And, we talked about how they were, if you looked at the entire season, that they were down in the overall rankings. But if you looked at last week against Tampa, they were 7th in week 3 in rushing. So I think that right now we're still looking at a small sample size. I think we're starting to get some ideas of what they can do. And what I was encouraged by with that blitz rate when we talk about the defense is the fact that it shows you that in the right situation or against the right team, or however you want to phrase it, that they believe they can dial that up. You may not be able to dial that up in every game. And that's not something that fans should necessarily get frustrated by. Recognize that this may not be your opportunity against an Aaron Rodgers, for example, that you may not want to set yourself up to get burned. And you may want to make sure that you hold somebody back to be able to assist, whether it's on that second level or it's all the way back in the secondary. But you have seen it to know that they're capable of doing it.
Yes. And you can't look, you don't, I don't care if it's on the Packers or the Jets. You don't blitz Aaron Rodgers 57% of the time. Sure. You will get torn up.
You'll do it. And look, Vance Joseph will dial it up a few times. Sure. I believe that he will. I believe that he has recognized that he can get aggressive from time to time. But just know that, when we're looking at the overall, standings, to your point, of the snap count that they are doing the blitz, recognize that it's been Geno Smith, Justin Fields, and Baker Mayfield so far. And that those are not elite level quarterbacks that know how to be able to read the defense or be able to make you pay if you overcommit and you leave gaps on the field, right? Things like that. So like I said, I'm encouraged by it, and I'm encouraged that there are some players I believe that can step in where Alex Singleton is leaving the gap, but it may take a little bit to see it in terms of the next man up mentality. And to Sean's point, and I know there's always people that surprise. Don't get me wrong, okay? But I also firmly believe that there is always a reason that someone is a backup and not a starter.
Yes.
There is something that the coaching staff saw that kept that person from having 80, 90, 100% of the defensive snaps. And if that's the case, then you need to recognize that you're not replacing apples with apples.
Right. And when you look at the snap counts, Alex Singleton and Pat Surtain are the only guys that have been on there for all of them. All 190 defensive snaps. PJ Locke and Riley Moss have been there for almost all of it.
They're close, but Pat and Alex were the only ones that are basically the go-to.
Yes, doing the Justin Simmons thing, who for a span of 3 years didn't miss a snap. But with Cody Barton's case, we talked about him being probably the immediate next man up. The idea that, wow, you've really got to accelerate his process. Not really. Barton's already been an 102 out of 190. So basically 54% of the snaps already this year, Barton has been on the field. And that's more than some of the other guys that are theoretically starters. It's more than John Franklin Myers. It's more than DJ Jones. It's more than guys that even are more of your starting 11. So at the bright side, you have a veteran in Barton. He's already been on the field a lot. Hopefully that closes the gap. And for the Broncos, they can ramp up and get themselves back as a cohesive, coherent unit in quick order. The problem, of course, is that you're facing Aaron Rodgers. And when we talk about blitzes and things like that, what Vance Joseph is doing, we know that obviously play action is very vulnerable to the blitz. There are a few quarterbacks better at play action, especially when it comes to disguising the handoff. Aaron Rodgers might be the best quarterback in the league when it comes to disguising the handoff. He's really good at putting that behind his body and making it look like the running backs have got it. And because of the running game that the Jets have, you have to respect that. If you see Breece Hall and you think he's got it for a second, you can't just ignore it and go, I'm sure Aaron Rodgers has it, because if you do that, Breece Hall's down the sideline somewhere and you're chasing him. So this is not the best week for sure. On the road, against a good team, against a team that has a quarterback that obviously will be waltzing into the Hall of Fame 5 years after he retires, no matter how it wraps up in New York. It's a bad week to have this happen. And for the Broncos, who are underdogs already, obviously it makes the situation a lot more difficult, and it puts more pressure on the other side of the ball for Bo Nix and the Broncos offense to perform much more like they did in Tampa and not the way they did in the first two games.
Yeah, it's just that's what this team's going to be up against this weekend. And look, I wasn't expecting them to go to New Jersey and win.
Right.
I wasn't. So
yeah, I don't think a lot of people hopefully had that as they were looking at their season going, oh yeah, that's a W.
I mean, I didn't have that as the case unless Aaron Rodgers re-injured himself. So
right.
I didn't have that to be the case for this game on Sunday. So let's look for the Broncos to roll through this game and stay healthy, continue to improve in what they're seeing out of Bo Nix, have a defense that maybe isn't perfect without Alex there, and maybe isn't perfect because they're not necessarily an elite defense, but can play well and keep themselves from getting burned, and recognize that, you're a week away from coming back and playing the Raiders, which is a very winnable game.
Yes, that one most certainly is. So we'll find out. Bad luck for Alex Singleton. Obviously, you hope for the best for him. The toughness, as Nate pointed out, not in dispute. So go get the rehab and
tear your ACL and keep playing. I mean,
feel like he'll be able to come back as best as he can.
That's crazy.
That's a tough situation, especially yet to not realize that you made a way to do it.
Yeah,
Quan Alexander.
I know you were going to talk about him.
Yeah, Quan Alexander, one of the familiarities, of course, what have we talked about? Sean Payton likes his guys. Quan Alexander played for the Saints when Sean Payton was there. There's familiarity. Now, what is a Sean Payton guy? Is that someone who's absolutely played from before like Quan Alexander, or Cody Barton, who was added as one of the first free agents this offseason, actually, that the Denver Broncos signed? Well, then he's got to be a Sean Payton guy too, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean, I think sometimes we have a hard time defining exactly, like, we know what a Sean Payton guy is at wide receiver, right?
Very tall.
Yeah, you got to be 6'2" or bigger, basically, and then you go from there.
Right.
There are certain things that I think he looks for. I don't know that I can necessarily define what he looks for from a defensive player, and I know that Troy Rank will be on the show tomorrow, and we can talk to Troy about that. But I think there's some recognition there of who a Sean Payton guy is. And maybe folks, with the fact that it's starting to look a little bit better, maybe he's asking Vance Joseph who his guys are, who can fit in your defense, VJ,
something, right?
Who can come in here and help us out with what you're doing. Because I do think that Vance Joseph has put together a good defensive plan here so far, frankly, through the first 3 weeks, and in particular against Tampa. But does it always have to be a Sean Payton guy? Maybe. And yes, I think that his ego demands that it is those kinds of things as the head coach and as the de facto GM. But it wouldn't surprise me if some of this maybe wasn't, hey, I'm seeing some good stuff out of what VJ's doing. Let me make sure that he's got the chess pieces on the board to help him. And maybe that's who Barton was.
Yeah. And
I know that's a stretch, but maybe he did.
Yeah. Let's talk about this.
Maybe there was a conversation that took place that none of us believe actually happened.
I've mentioned this before when it comes to Vance Joseph, and you can say whatever you'd like about Vance Joseph's stint as the Broncos head coach. I think it was pretty obvious he wasn't ready for the gig, which was a concern when he got it. And he got his couple of years. The second year, of course, after John Elway famously said he slept on it, which meant I was going to fire him, but then I slept on it and decided to keep him. But give Vance Joseph a lot of credit. One, when you try as head coach and you don't succeed, you go back and be a coordinator. That's how it goes. And then maybe you get another look at it. But what Vance Joseph has done since, it's hard to come back to the team in which you were fired as head coach. Vance Joseph has not only done that, but he did that with almost a complete opposite of Sean Payton ego. Vance Joseph came in following Ejiro Evero's departure. Vance Joseph actually then talked about how he kept a lot of Evero's nomenclature on the defense because most of what they run is similar, as, by the way, people behind the NFL curtain, most of what every team's run is similar. About 90% of the playbooks are the same. It's about 10% of the changes. But Vance Joseph decided instead of asking his entire defense to relearn, I will relearn and I will adapt what I call to match what you already know because it's easier for one guy to do it than half the team. I can't recall in my entire career, Nate, a coach saying he was going to do that at that level, at the coordinator level or above. I cannot recall it. And here's Vance Joseph putting his ego aside to do what's best for his players, now putting them in a better position, now adjusting and looking like a defensive coordinator that really may have it. Getting a good sense for the game, knowing when to bring pressure and when not to bring pressure, getting a good sense on trusting Riley Moss, who I think has looked a lot better than good. I think he's looked very good, and trusting in the fact that, okay, we're going to move on from Kareem Jackson and Justin Simmons, which the former, okay, the latter sounded crazy, but the truth of the matter is Brandon Jones and PJ Locke have looked every bit as good as that pairing. And if you take the pair together, maybe even better. And then you add Franklin Myers into the mix, and this Broncos defense looks versatile and adaptable. That's a lot of it is Vance Joseph should get the credit for that and being able to utilize it in the best way, because we pointed out before against Tampa Bay, 13 different Broncos got pressures on Baker Mayfield. He only start 11, and you're not blitzing everybody from every position. So what you're seeing from Vance Joseph is real creativity. That's one, but that can happen midweek. What you're seeing from Vance Joseph that I really like, Nate, is I'm seeing moment by moment, play by play, the ability to stay within the game, adjust, adapt, tune, and alter what he's doing to fit not only the team he's playing against, but the scheme he's playing against and the players he's playing against and the way they're playing that day. Once they realized that Mayfield was getting rattled early, Joseph just brought the house all day long and said, until he beats us, right, I'm going to keep doing it. I have not seen that from Vance Joseph. His acceleration and growth as a coordinator, I think, is really notable in this Broncos season, even only 3 games in.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm still gonna. There's part of me that's still gonna reserve judgment when I've only seen 3 games. Okay, I don't want to get into. I made this crack with Brad on the podcast this morning, the Fade 5. I said I do not want to be one of those people that is 2 games into the MLB season and starts talking about how some guy's on pace for 265 RBI. Right? Like I don't want to be that guy. And I believe in the NFL, you start to see things over the course of the first quarter of a season. And I know that we've gone from 16 to 17, but I still believe in the idea of 4 games. And I think that a lot of coaches still do, especially old school coaches that have been doing it for a while, like Vance and Sean. I think that you still look at the season as, okay, what did we do in the first quarter? What did we do in the second quarter? Is there a learning curve that's happening? Is Vance Joseph showing us some stuff? Yeah. And I think he deserves some credit for what he's doing. I also think that regardless of what he's doing, in fact, on the field, from a personal level, Sean, I think you made a good point about the idea of being able to say, okay, yeah, I'm not the head coach anymore. You know who else wasn't the head coach anymore and was really, 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 really damn good at it? Wade Phillips, who acknowledged the fact that, okay, maybe Uncle Wade, Vaughn, maybe Uncle Wade was not the guy to lead the team, but he sure as hell was the guy to lead the defense. And he recognized that in his career, and that was where he belonged, and that it was okay to be on the second level of the notoriety from a coaching standpoint if it's what you were damn good at.
Yeah. By the way, go look at Wade Phillips' coaching record. It's better than even Wade Phillips will let you know.
Go get me the ball, Vaughn.
Von Miller, how about this? At the age of 35, one of the few players in the history of the NFL to have 3 consecutive games with sacks. Von Miller's still getting it done. All it takes is a little bit of health. If you're looking for the perfect place to work, play, exercise, socialize, then look no further than the Denver Athletic Club. You hear me talk about it every day here, right in the heart of downtown Denver. I had Anilo Pirro on joining me talking about the Buffs yesterday. He's a member there, raved about it, talked about how spend the whole day there with all of the things you can do. Top-notch amenities like the full fitness center, but a licensed childcare center, spa, massage, Pilates, a golf simulator. As Anila pointed out, there's a private bar, there's a bowling alley, there's a cold plunge. Basically, you name it, they have it. But that's not even really what makes the DAC special. What makes it special is that the member-owned community is all about those members. Year-round social events, co-working, dining, fun for the entire family. The DAC is truly a club for your whole life, and that's why they call it exactly that. So if you're looking for a way to sort of reinvent a little bit, to get more work done, to find a way to get a little bit healthier, or just to meet new people and socialize, this is the spot to go. So check it out. Go to denverathleticClub.cc and look about joining today. They have all the details right there. Denver Athletic Club for more than 100 years, right at the heart of Denver. Nate, week 4 is upon us now. Like we're ready here. It's happening. Just a few hours. And there are some things going around the NFL. Obviously, this is quarterbacks league, so to say, right? And we do have some stories about quarterbacks. But let's start with the one the Broncos will be facing.
I wanted to ask that question. I actually wanted to ask that question of you because I have my own kind of thoughts on it, but I wanted to ask this question of you. Are you surprised by the play of Aaron Rodgers through the first 3 weeks? Has he surprised you?
Well, no.
Okay.
I thought if health was permitting, and right now if you look at QBR, Aaron Rodgers is at 60.3, and QBR is in like whatever metric you'd like. It has value, and you have to take it with a grain of salt. But that puts him as 11th best in the NFL. And you look at passer rating, he's a little bit better than that. It doesn't shock me. The question is, how will the health hold up? He's always been an efficient passer. He's a smart passer, 5 touchdowns to 1 interception. He has been sacked 5 times, but no, I guess I'm not, because this is one of those guys that is the rare. He is on the tail end of his career, obviously, but we rave about the Patrick Mahomes of the world now. Aaron Rodgers was that before Patrick Mahomes. This is a guy that has seen and done enough of NFL football that he knows all the tricks, seen everything there is to see, and I'm not surprised he's playing well. What I wonder is over the course of the season when we will start seeing some of the physical limitations pop up.
Right.
Obviously, Rodgers was kind of known for a long time as a guy that could tuck away in play action, roll around, scramble outside, extend plays. We haven't seen that much this year. He's looked more like a pocket passer. That was expected as soon as he went to the Jets. Even prior to the injury, the expectation he would pass more from the pocket. But is he a lot better than I expected? No. I think he's looked good, not great. And I think that's what I expected Aaron Rodgers to look like. The question is, does he get worse as the season goes on, or does he get better?
Well, and the thing is, like, talking from, for example, preseason from a fantasy football perspective, I told people that, like, I'm not touching him because I didn't think he was going to make it through the season. I got to be honest with you. And I still am not convinced he's going to make it through the season. I think at his age, and I think injuries become more likely. I think obviously the Achilles is part of that. I know that it's New England. And I know that New England was the odds-on favorite at the beginning of the season to have the number 1 overall pick next April, and to basically have their pick of whatever the heck they want to do from a quarterback standpoint, if that's what they want to be able to do. I know that it's New England. I was extremely surprised / impressed by how he played against New England. You talk about his 60.3 passer rating. Well, his passer rating against New England was 81.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked spectacular. And yes, I know it's New England. And it's not the same as it was with Brady and Belichick, but it's still a good team. And it to me, that performance had me kind of go, all right, is he back?
Yeah.
Was it just because it's New England?
The Patriots defense is not bad.
Not
It is
bad.
that the offense is a disaster.
Yeah,
It
their
has,
offense is
no identity.
Their offense is a business.
And for reference there, that QBR of 81.3
is double what he had the week before against Tennessee, by the way.
And the passer rating itself of 118.9 is outstanding. Completed 77% of his passes, but not moving a lot. 18 total yards on the year on the ground.
Yeah, but that's unreal for him to have 18. And they all came against New England.
He's not.
Remember, I told you to bet on the under on his rushing yards.
Yeah.
I mean, the dude goes 3 carries for 18 yards.
Yeah. Well, the previous 2 games, he had 3 carries for 0 yards. So yeah, that made a lot of sense.
Thanks,
that part of his game, I think, is probably gone. I don't think they're going to do much. In fact, out of those 18 yards, 11 of them was on one
like
run.
running around trying to make stuff up.
Yeah, not going to do that anymore, and that's a window of opportunity for the Broncos. And I guess before we move on to some of those other stories, I'm gonna bring up an idea to you for the Broncos defense when he is healthy again.
Yes,
you'll remember that Baron Browning was an inside linebacker. And actually started 9 games as a rookie, took that over, looked really good because of the speed and the ability to go sideline to sideline. Baron Browning actually has the ability to cover tight ends. He's got the speed to do it. He's got the lateral movement to do it when healthy. He's not healthy right now. He missed the game against Tampa. We'll see how health comes along. But the idea for a while at the beginning of the year was Jonathan Cooper or Baron Browning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jonah Ellis is just drafted. He looks like part of the equation. Nick Bonito is in more than 50% of the snaps. He certainly looks like he's part of
our boy Cody Rourke loves him some Nick Bonito.
I like Nick Bonito last year. I think there's a lot to like there. And the idea was Jonathan Cooper and Baron Browning are both free agents at the end of the year.
Yes, sir.
Probably wasn't going to sign both of them, right? And at the moment, it looks like you have to sign Jonathan Cooper. He's arguably been behind Pat Surtain, maybe the most impactful defensive player in the Broncos. What if the Broncos moved Baron Browning back to where he was on the inside, where now if you have a guy that can look like the starter he was as a youngster and can give you even a little more in coverage, maybe you do re-sign both Browning and Cooper. You have a hedge against Singleton's injury if it lingers, and then you have more options and a speedier overall defense. Browning certainly faster than Singleton. If I were the Broncos, I'd be looking very seriously at it because the injury for Browning, I think, and the emergence of Bonito and the consistent performance of Cooper means that, quite frankly, now Browning doesn't have an immediate route to a starting spot in general. I guess you could have him opposite of Cooper, and that's what you'd like to envision. But with Bonito and Ellis playing the way they are, you don't necessarily need that. I like the idea, if you're running a 3-4, the idea of having, let's say, in 2025, Cooper and Bonito on the outside, or Ellis, Browning and Singleton, presuming he's healthy by then, on the inside. That's a unit I really like. You have speed, you have versatility, you have tackling ability. The Broncos have been taking all of their guys from the inside and moving them to the outside. That's what they've done. They've been taking inside guys, everybody but Singleton, and turning them into edge rushers. They did it with Drew Sanders, their draft pick, who ended up, unfortunately, he got hurt too. Sanders was going to play on the inside. They've moved him to the edge. Not everybody has to be on the edge. What if you had an opportunity to maximize what Browning can do by putting him back inside?
Yeah, look, I'm going to defer to them. They know a lot more how to judge that talent than I ever will. But I do think that one of the questions that you brought up, and we go back to what we talked about a minute ago with Alex Singleton's injury, is it necessarily a next man up plug and play, or is it's a plug and play, but you're actually moving a couple of the chess pieces in the process of doing it? Right. And I think that's the question. And I don't know the answer to it. I know Vance Joseph and Sean Payton will. And maybe with what you've got this weekend against Aaron Rodgers, and then following that up with a Gardner Minshew type of play a week later, maybe this is your opportunity. Maybe we see them come out with a couple of different sets and you say, okay, let me see what we think can be effective.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is an opportunity to experiment. Browning on IR. He will miss, at least the 4 games. He missed last game as well. So it'll be a bit, but you do wonder if he's on IR when he returns. It does give you an opportunity. As he's getting ready and still on the injured list, you could practice him a little bit and run him a little bit back on the inside, see how he feels, see how it looks. I'd love to see the Broncos do it. But let's move over to another AFC rival, the Chargers. Justin Herbert with the high ankle sprain. This week's status is, quote, uncertain. That's not great on a Thursday. If he's uncertain on a Tuesday, maybe that's something different. Uncertain on a Thursday, not ideal for the Chargers, making it worse for the Chargers. Derwin James suspended one game. Jim Harbaugh, their head coach, complained about that. I'm not surprised by the suspension. The
Nope.
NFL keeps coming down on this, and they're going to keep coming down harder and harder until the point gets made. For the Chargers, though, after losing their game this week, trying not to drop to 2-2, they're in a little bit of trouble here this week.
Well, they're in trouble, but they're also playing the Chiefs. I mean, they were in trouble even if Herbert was healthy.
Do you just rest Herbert?
I would.
What's the point?
I would. I would absolutely say take this weekend off. Let's make sure that we got ourselves in a position where we can fight for a wild card.
You don't have Derwin James
in the long run
backfield against Patrick Mahomes and company.
To me, punt. That's what I would do. And allow everybody to rest and allow everybody to ultimately get better. That I believe is to actually use a positive spin on what Antonio Pierce said this past weekend. I think that is the right business decision in the case of the Chargers. I know it's a home game for them, but it's a division game. You're taking on Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs are going to wind up being 4-0, and is it really worth it for you to aggravate that high ankle sprain in a way that's going to set you back in week 7, 8, or 9 as opposed to week 4?
Yeah, and
I think that's very true.
To the Chiefs, by the way, Isaiah Pacheco on the injured list.
Yes,
and,
bummer for all of you in your fantasy teams.
Yeah, and that could be a loss sometime. And now who knows, right? Because you had Carson Steele carrying the
great name, by the way.
Great.
I mean, that you want to talk about a porn-tacular name right there.
Or
Carson Steele.
When you have those people that write spy novels that like knock off James Bond novels, that's what it kind of sounds like.
Yeah,
Carson Steele.
Yeah, but he really does sound like a porn star. Let's be honest.
A little bit.
Carson Steele.
You start the thing with Diddy and Baby Oil, and then you go to Carson Steele.
It's a Tequila Thursday.
Samaje Perine in that mix, in part because of his ability.
Not
to
a porn
passes.
name or a spy name, by the way.
A good pass blitz pickup name, though, which is good if you're the Chiefs. But now they bring back Kareem Hunt and expected to activate him now. Talk about running back by committee. Thy name is the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, and I don't want to take anything away from the talent that Isaiah Pacheco has, but I got to be honest. I mean, Andy Reid is such a damn good coach.
Well, he'll find a way to
figure it out.
The right play for Perine, the right place for Steele. When they mix in Hunt, what he's got left in the tank, they'll get that done.
Like, are you kidding me? Going up against the Chargers in LA this weekend, after all of the hubbub that has been taking place about how Travis Kelce sucks.
Which, by the way, oh my God,
and
stop.
it's laughable to me.
Stop.
But tell me that Andy Reid's not going to sit there chomping on his gum and is going to come up with a couple of plays for Kelce this weekend, A, to stick it to a divisional opponent, but B, just to shut everybody up. I mean, tell me that's not what Andy Reid's going to do this weekend.
This does have that feel that Kelsey's going to go for like 10 catches for 130 yards and
just
2 touchdowns
because,
or something.
You want to question it?
Yeah.
Hold my beer and watch this.
Yeah. And in the meantime, watch like swing out passes to Perine or things like that.
He's gonna make it work. Look, I think let's go back to what you had started to talk about, which is the running game for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I do believe in some of the things that Andy Reid is capable of doing, and also because you have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, that I don't want to call it quite plug and play because I'm not 100% believer in that. However, I do believe that when you have someone like a Kareem Hunt, who is capable of being a good back and still has gas in the tank, that is an absolutely brilliant move by the Chiefs.
But no one's going to go. None of those guys are going to walk away with 20 carries.
No, not at all.
Work.
But that's not. But he doesn't have to,
and
right?
That's the thing with Reid, that I actually look at this, and I'm with you. I think Isaiah Pacheco is a great back. I loved him coming out of college. I actually suggested the Broncos draft him coming out of college. That didn't happen, but you give a guy as skilled and as talented as Andy Reid. Now he looks at the pieces. Okay, Carson Steele can play a little bit here. He can run on the inside. He can do a little bit. We know that Perine is kind of a Swiss Army knife back. He can carry in the middle. He can carry to the outside. He can catch. He can do blitz pickup. Quite frankly, we watched him block as the lead blocker for Joe Mixon for the Bengals. So he can do a little bit of everything. You give Andy Reid a guy with that skill set, and then you bring back Hunt, who he's already familiar with, who, as you said, has some gas in the tank, but maybe you don't crash him into the line 20 times a game. Andy Reid is going to find the best way to use all three of these guys. And this might sound a little weird. It would not surprise me if, for at least the next couple weeks, the Chiefs' offense looks maybe more dangerous and more diverse and more explosive without Pacheco, because Reed's going to start pulling a lot of different threads and see how that works out. So I think it will be kind of interesting to watch how the Chiefs play. Go over to the NFC, where I think one of the more interesting games is going to be the Vikings and the Packers. Aaron Jones took out an ad in the newspaper in Green Bay, a really classy one, talking about his great time at the Packers. Looked forward to doing the Lambeau Leap as an opponent this time with the Vikings. Jordan Love may come back for that game. Love said he almost played in week 3. Matt LaFleur is being very coy about it, but 4 straight days of practice.
No.
Is Jordan Love coming back already?
No, he shouldn't.
This is a big game. You don't want to let Minnesota get away from you.
Yeah, but at the same time, is it about week 4 or is it about week 12?
Well, when it's a division.
Yeah, but is it about week 4 or is it about week 12?
It could be about week 12 if you lose and Minnesota jumps to 4.
But would I rather take that L knowing that I've got who I need and what I need in week 12 to beat who I need to beat and have them at 100%? I would rather do that. That's me. I think coaches get selfish. I do not believe in any way, shape, or form that LaFleur is on the hot seat right now.
No.
And so it's not like he's fighting for his job. There's no reason for him to do it. Jordan Love should sit out one more week. I know that it is a division game, but guess what? So is it for the Chargers.
Yep.
And they need to make the right business decision, and so do the Packers.
Yeah. And you know what?
And guess what? Did the Packers look that bad last week?
Malik Willis, Nate, in the 3 games Malik Willis has played, he has completed 73% of his passes, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He's run for 114 yards.
I think it's gamesmanship right now by LaFleur because he's trying to make it so Minnesota doesn't know who they're preparing
Malik
for.
Willis looks like he can run this offense. He'll be fine.
I think he's
I'm
absolutely
with you. I'd love to see
fine.
Jordan Love get back, but I get the point. And quite frankly, Malik Willis has the hot hand.
Yep.
Roll with it. I think that's perfectly okay.
Before we get to, we got to make some Thursday night football bets. Before we get to that, and before we get to, frankly, one of the biggest pieces of news that we haven't even touched on yet locally, coming up, I want to remind you folks that as we watch what the Fed is doing with the interest rates, when we watch those kinds of things that are going on, it means that you may be thinking about buying or selling when it comes to real estate here in the Front Range area or frankly around the state of Colorado. And that means you got to reach out to our friends Dave and Mark at Key Real Estate Group's Colorado Luxury Home Team. You find them online at keyrealestategroup.com, by the way. Just go check it out right there. If you're thinking about it, even if it's something that's 30, 60, 90, 180 days down the road for you, making contact with a realtor and with the folks that are going to be your partners does not need to happen the moment you're ready to go look at property. You can make that contact early so that you can have the conversations. You can talk about what it is you're looking to do. Again, buying, selling, secondary homes, investment properties, etc. But you can start to lay that foundation, and you can do it right now with our friends at Key Real Estate Group, and that's Dave and Mark. And so I want you to reach out to them. If you'd rather give them a call, you can, 720-900-LIST. That's the phone number, 720-900-LIST. But again, keyrealestategroup.com. Go check them out. And we talk about the Colorado Luxury Home Team, folks. It doesn't mean you've got to have a luxury budget. What they're referring to is their service, because they treat everybody with the amazing amount of service, whether your budget is 7 figures or a third of that. They are still going to treat everybody the same. They're going to take care of you, and they're going to make sure that you and your family find the property that you're looking for, or that you walk through that sales process with a partner hand in hand every single step of the way. So even if it is something you're thinking about doing down the road and is not necessarily immediate, I encourage you to reach out to them so you can start to lay that foundation. keyrealestategroup.com.
It is Thursday night football. Cowboys and the Giants. Dak Prescott's winning streak against the Giants is this time gone long and distinguished. But the idea of this game right now, there seems to be some
hesitancy.
Let's say turmoil in Dallas. You have Jerry Jones talking about how he's going to take the blame for their start. It's been bad. You have CeeDee Lamb calling teammates out on the sideline, getting the frustration there is obvious. And you have what should be one of the elite defenses in the NFL giving up, and this is an actual number, folks. This isn't like a college football number. This is in the NFL. The Cowboys are the worst rushing defense in the league. That's saying one thing. The yards they're giving up is insane. The Cowboys are surrendering 186 per game on the ground. That is mind-bending. And so even though the Giants are a bad football team, and they are bad, Devin Singletary's off to a good start on the ground. We know that Daniel Jones, obviously running's a part of his game. I do not think this is a gimme for Dallas. I think there's a lot of pressure on Dallas. I think they're not playing well. And I think you're still talking about a division game and against a longtime division rival.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that. So let me go and start to talk about some of the betting lines and things like that here for Thursday Night Football. We're talking about a Dallas team. The spread has come down. It's just -5. It's been at 6.5. It's been at 5.5. It's now down to a flat 5 with our friends at DraftKings. And that is what Dallas is favored by. And the over-under is sitting at 45. I will tell you this. On the standard line, I'm not touching it. And in fact, Brad and I talked about this on the Fade 5 podcast this morning. I'm also not touching Dallas on the money line. Brad created some same game parlays that involve Dallas on the money line. I'm not touching it because they just got absolutely bare bottom spanked at home.
Yeah. Now the Ravens are light years better than the Giants, but
you got spanked at home. Like that wasn't even close, folks. That was not even close. This Dallas team, I think, has some things they need to be able to try to figure out. Are they better than the Giants? Yes, they're better than the Giants, but they're also on the road on a short week. So yeah, I don't know right now. So let me point that out. So first of all, I'm not touching the spread, and I'm not even going to touch Dallas on the money line in the bets that you're going to see pop up on the screen here in just a little bit that I'm going to share with you. I will tell you that I like the over, and I would play it by itself. You're going to see in a same game parlay that I'm going to share with you here in just a second that I brought the total way down to make it a leg of what I'm doing. But I can tell you that 7 out of the last 10 times these two teams have played, they have hit the over. And by the way, that also includes a really out of whack over last year. They played right before Thanksgiving last year, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was Thanksgiving Day. I can't even remember what it was. And the over-under was set at something like 38. That is insane for these two teams, okay? They obliterated that number. But 7 out of the last 10 times they've played each other, they have hit the over. Dallas is 7-3 against the spread in the last 10 times they've played each other as well, if you want to be able to believe in some trends. Here's another trend that I want to throw your way that scares the living bejesus out of me. Everybody, and I mean everybody and their brother-in-law is on Devin Singletary to score a touchdown tonight for the Giants. And that is in part because of what we've seen Dallas do and how susceptible they've been on the ground. I'm not telling you that I don't think Singletary finds the end zone. But when I see something that is that heavily being bet by the public, man, that scares me away. And so I'm avoiding that one as well. So I did put together a couple of same game parlays for you that we want to be able to talk about here on the program. And I'm going to pop them up on the screen because to be honest with you, they may be a little bit confusing for you to be able to follow if you're just listening to what I'm saying. Let's talk about this one that I built over at BetMGM. And I really like this one at a +165. And I'll tell you exactly why we were able to get there. Give me Dak Prescott to have at least 200 yards through the air. Folks, his standard line is up in the 260s. I am buying myself a 60-plus yards worth of cushion here and bringing him all the way down. All he's got to do is be able to hit 2 bills. He should be able to do that. Now let's talk about Wan'Dale Robinson, who I think is going to have at least 25 yards receiving. So 25-plus for him from a receiving standpoint. If I'm not mistaken, his standard line is closer to 34. So we're bringing him all the way down by roughly 10 yards, and we're taking it at 25 or more. This is the leg that gets this up to +165, folks, and that is Brandon Aubrey to have at least 2 made field goals in this game. It is something that I think he can consistently do. Dallas, they found a kicker, man. I mean, Aubrey can be able to do this. So when we look at how this is set up, 2 made field goals for him, that is what pops this into the +165 that you see. I built this morning over at BetMGM. You also have another way you could play this if you want to, and that is you can also take him on his total points. And I'm speaking of Aubrey here, and you can take that at 7.5 if he's going to do a couple of field goals, a couple of extra points.
I love that one.
I like it on the 2 made field goals. If the Giants defense at home can hold Dallas when they get down inside the 30 or so, I think we could see Aubrey kick those field goals. So that is the same game parlay. It's a very simple one. Built it over at BetMGM. None of these involve boosts or anything like that. If you want to tail me on this one, I already put this one in at BetMGM at a +165. Have one that's a little bit more complicated, but before I get to that, Sean, what's standing out to you in this game from a betting perspective?
Well, I still think that the Cowboys are just a much better team. I actually think that this sort of frustration that bubbled over and the way they finished against Baltimore, which, look, the game was a blowout. Ignore what the final score was. Dallas got smoked. But I think they're just a far better team and they'll play better. I went over to DraftKings. I put together a a same game parlay as well. I'll go through it quick. It's pretty easy. I'm just betting on Dak and CeeDee Lamb to patch things up. I have the Cowboys winning on the money line. CeeDee Lamb is an anytime TD to score more than 70 yards reception. Dak at 225 in passing yards. And this is where it's a little bit, I have him as getting to 2 passing touchdowns, one of them obviously to Lamb. That goes up to a plus 264 at DraftKings. A couple of things have to go right, but for 2.5 to 1 payout, I don't hate it. The other one that I like, if you want to get really simple, like I said, I think they're going to try to patch things up with CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb over DraftKings for the first touchdown of the game. And I've already hit one of those this year with Saquon Barkley, plus 500. I think if Dallas gets to the red zone first, they're going to be looking CeeDee Lamb early and often. They want to get this kind of bad vibe, bad juju, whatever it is, off the team. So I have CeeDee Lamb for the first touchdown of the game at a 5 to 1 plus 500. I like that one too.
All right. I like where we're rolling with both of those. Let me throw the other same game parlay at you. And again, this one is a little more complicated. That's why I've got it up on the screen. Let's talk about Wan'Dale Robinson. I already told you I like him at 25 or more. I'm bringing this one down to just 20 or more. Daniel Jones to have 20-plus yards rushing on the ground. His standard line, by the way, is right around 30 or 31. I would even play the over on that one. I think he's going to be scrambling, and I think he will pick up the yards against Dallas. Let's talk about Devin Singletary. I told you I'm scared by the anytime touchdown because so many people are on that prop for tonight, but I do like him to have 50 or more rushing yards in this contest tonight. This is the leg that I will tell you Brad didn't like. I'm still standing by it. Rico Dowdle to have 40 or more rushing plus receiving yards for Dallas. I believe we are going to continue to see his usage climb with this Dallas offense. I know they've got Zeke Elliott there who can pound it in for the touchdowns, which is why I wouldn't play Dowdle necessarily for a touchdown. But I do believe 40 combined rushing and receiving is extremely attainable for Dowdle in the game tonight. And then I'm going to take that total down. I told you it's at 45. I'm bringing it all the way down to 36.5. Right? So we get to a final score of 27 to 10. Bam, I just hit it. And I think we're going to see more scoring than that, as I told you before. That one over at Caesars, plus 156. Again, no bonus, no nothing. This is just a standard way of building it. One more time in case you're actually listening to the show instead of watching us on YouTube. Robinson for 20 or more receiving. Devin Singletary for 50 or more rushing. Daniel Jones for 20 or more rushing. Rico Dowdle, 40 on his combined rush plus receive, and then I need at least 37 points in the game. You put all of that together, plus 156 over at Caesars. Couple other things let me throw out here for you for the game tonight. If you're looking for different touchdown scores, because I know there's a lot of bonuses and things like that you can do. If you want to go a little bit off the beaten path, I love Jay Ferg. Give me Jake Ferguson for a touchdown tonight at the tight end position for Dallas. And you can get that at DraftKings right now at a plus 155. Then this is my stretch. This is my one that I would either make a smaller bet, or if you have a no sweat or something like that you can burn, this is what I would use it on. The Dallas defense for a touchdown at plus 425. Ooh. This defense, I believe, is underperforming so far this season. And we know that was the case as they got blitzkrieged by the Ravens. But at the same time, there is too much talent on this defense for me to believe that that's going to be the case for them throughout the season. I think they're going to get up for the fact that this is a Thursday nighter. I think they're going to get up for the fact that it is a divisional opponent. And it wouldn't surprise me if they basically lure Daniel Jones into something stupid, whether that is a pick six, whether that is a scoop and score off of a strip sack, something like that. I think you could take a shot at Dallas's defense and special teams at plus 425 to have a touchdown in this game. Now, let me give you one that has nothing to do with the Thursday night contest. There is one college football game on the schedule tonight at Lincoln Financial Field in Philly. We will see Temple hosting the Black Knights. Army will be there. Here's the thing. Temple has already played Navy this year, and they couldn't freaking stop the option. Okay?
That's bad.
They gave up 38 points.
That's bad.
All right? They gave up 38 points. And here comes Army to do the exact same thing to them. Okay? So I did this as a same game parlay, folks, and it's even money. It is plus 100 for it to be this simple. Okay. Army is favored in this game by 12, and the over-under is 46. Okay. Here's the same game parlay at even money, plus 100 at DraftKings. Take Army in half. Take the 12 spread down to 5.5. Get Army minus 5.5. All they got to do is win by 6. And I think they may win by double figures, but I'm buying myself a cushion just in case. and then take the game total down to 42.5. 42.5, and the over. Army minus 5.5. It's the only college football game on the slate tonight. That is even money at DraftKings at a plus 100. And I know we've been talking about Charlie Blackmon. I'm just going to keep betting on him to have a hit in all of these remaining games. That's all I need. They're using him as the DH.
Yeah.
They're popping him in the leadoff spot
every game. We know. Yeah. Obviously, they want to get.
He's gonna be in the leadoff spot, which means he's gonna get some extra at bats. I'm just gonna keep betting him to get a hit. I just think it's just gonna keep happening. I think he goes out on a high note, and rightfully so. Obviously, they're playing this afternoon against St. Louis. That will wrap up the 3-game set against Nolan and the Cards, and then the Dodgers will come to town, and we'll have the 3-game set against the Dodgers. You basically can't get tickets anymore unless you're going to the secondary market, by the way. The combination of the Dodgers being here this weekend and Charlie Blackmon's announcement, all of that put together. Are they doing fireworks on Friday?
I think they're one of the days.
I think they're doing fireworks. I don't know. Danny Bailey will be on the rooftop on Friday night getting drunk. So if you want to go catch up with DB, just go look for him on the rooftop on Friday night. You know he's going to be having fun with that one. Sean, we have not touched on what is arguably the biggest news of the day.
Right. Okay. It's not really a crack opened a little bit. If you have DirecTV or Fubo, you've been able to watch Altitude Television and the Avalanche and the Nuggets. If that's the case, things will become a little easier for you. Altitude announced this morning that they will have, they joined not only the streaming wars, but they joined it with another plus, in case you want to subscribe to another plus. Altitude Plus will be available in October.
Pretty soon, we're just going to have MHS Plus. I don't even know what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
But we're going to create something.
Nate talking about baby oil. Who has porn names?
Carson Steele.
Yeah, there we go. That'll have to put.
Come
that
on, tell me you're not going to see that in the credits somewhere.
Put that.
Dude's got a porntacular name.
But you will now be able to stream Altitude's programming, not only the Avs, the Nuggets, but everything. You'll just be able to stream the network itself. That'll be $20 a month. That app will release sometime in October. If you do subscribe to DirecTV or Fubo, which carries it, you will just get that for free, so you can watch any of it on demand on the app.
And then they also did the local deal.
That's the big one. Taking a cue from Matt Ishbia, the owner of the Phoenix Suns. Ishbia, when we're dealing with one of the RSNs, Altitude, of course, owns its own. But Ishbia had one of the challenges with the RSNs that was going bankrupt and all the Diamond Sports and all that stuff. Ishbia decided he made a deal with the Suns that they're just going to go old school. They found a local station, said the Suns are going over the air.
Over the air.
Old school. We're just going. You got rabbit ears. You got tinfoil coming off your flat screen TV,
or off your head.
The Suns, right? Either way. So what they made a deal with Tegna, which owns 9 News and Channel 20. There will be 20 Nuggets games and 20 Avalanche games broadcast on Channel 9 and Channel 20 over the course of the next season. So the Avs and the Nuggets for at least for a quarter of their season each coming over the air. That to me, Nate, is the bigger news than the streaming option, which I think everyone assumed was coming because every team's going to have its own, or the league itself is going to start bringing all those in, as we see for the Rockies, which is now produced entirely by the MLB, even though you can catch it on television. So Altitude's going to produce all of its own things. When you see it on Channel 9, when you see it on Channel 20, it will still look like it was on Altitude.
Yeah.
But getting, I think, even 20 games over the air for the Nuggets and the Avs, to my mind, is a huge win for fans, and especially given the fact that for the last couple of years, the Avs have won a championship. The Nuggets have won a championship. There should be kids in Denver running around all over town with McKinnon and Jokic and Murray and Rantanen jerseys and McCarr jerseys all over the place. But because of the way this has gone for so long, during the best time in history for the Avs and Nuggets together, they've been inaccessible. And a lot of people are watching other teams that they can watch. This is a major win to get them on over-the-air television for 1 out of basically every 4 games of the season. Great job by taking the Channel 9, Channel 20, and Altitude to get that done.
Yeah, I'm excited about what they're doing. I'm happy that there are some options out there for folks. I think that, those of you that have been complaining, shall we say, on social media, about what's been happening or why didn't they do this before or things like that. The best way that I can summarize it for you is you don't understand how the back end of these contracts and these deals and the leagues and the networks work. Please understand that it's not just as simple as flipping a switch and deciding that is what you're going to do and that you're all of a sudden going to have some sort of an app for people to be able to watch. It's not that easy. Please, folks, I know it's been really easy to bitch and moan on social media for the last several years. I have been doing programming for Altitude that a lot of you have not been able to watch, and I understand that. Believe me, that's frustrating for me to know that there's a portion of the crowd and the fans out there that can't watch the programming that we're creating because it's good programming. But please understand that it wasn't just as easy as wham, bam, make it happen. There are a lot of things that go into this. And so I respect everybody that's been frustrated, but just make sure you don't go onto social media thinking you know more than everybody else about how this business works, because I guarantee you don't.
Look, even Disney
it just is
and
true.
DirecTV in the last couple of weeks just got things said. Disney and DirecTV, these two companies print money. There is no problem making this happen, but it's complicated. The television business right now, especially with the world fractionalizing into streaming, there are rights that there are contracts that last years. There are things. There
are contracts that last decades.
Right. And when you're talking about, and remember, Altitude is one thing, but the Nuggets have to work within the framework of what the NBA does on streaming and broadcast rights. The Avalanche with the NHL and streaming rights. And guess what? The NBA and NHL don't have the same partners, the same rights, the same contracts. It's immensely complicated. And so I think simplifying it, the app is one thing, and that's an option for people, and that's great. I love having options. The deal to get these over the air again
is a big deal.
Massive.
Because keep in mind, the idea of there being 20 games per team over the air between 20 and 9, in addition to 20 plus games per team that are already on national television because of how good these two teams are. Even without the app, folks, you're talking about the ability to see half the schedule of each team. And I know that's not perfect, but it's obviously better than what has been the case. And like I said, I just hope everybody understands that it wasn't as easy as anybody, as some of you out there in the keyboard warrior world think that it was. Before we sign off here for today and get you into the rest of your Thursday afternoon, a reminder that with Media Day going on today, with the Nuggets and Jamal speaking, Russ, all of them speaking, make sure that you are subscribed to Pickaxe and Roll with Ryan Blackburn. Sean and I will have a chance to react to some of what was said on tomorrow's show. But with all of that going on today, the place you want to be is on Pickaxe and Roll with Ryan Blackburn. He will recap it for you. He'll get the notes. You'll see it at milehighsports.com. I loved one of the comments that happened earlier today where they were talking to Westbrook, they were talking to Russell about the idea of not having to game plan anymore for Joker. And he was basically talking about how happy he was that he didn't have to be on the receiving end of trying to figure out how to slow down Jokic. And I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he basically was telling the other teams in the league, you can't do it. Good luck with that.
Yeah, I think they figured that
out. I think he appreciates where he's at. I also really enjoyed, and I'll be curious to see how all of this works forward. But one of the other comments that Westbrook made was he said one of his jobs on this team is to come in and get the best out of Jamal Murray that Jamal has. He talked about that being part of his role, was to come in and elevate Murray's game. And I know it's the sexy thing to say at a media day, but he's saying the right things because that is part of his role.
It's true, but keep in mind for the Nuggets, we'll have to watch with this. Can Westbrook do that?
I think he can.
But can he do it coming off the bench?
I think he can.
Playing at the same time as Jamal Murray to make that happen. There are things to figure out about that. The loss of KCP changes a lot of stuff for the Nuggets, but you're exactly right. Make sure you tune in to Pickaxe and Roll. Check out.
He'll have the initial react. We'll talk about it some tomorrow.
Yeah, get the app and get that as well. And make sure you check out everything that Ryan Blackburn's putting together. It will be a football Friday tomorrow. We will talk about the Nuggets, of course, as well. Starting to get fun around here. Avs training camp's underway. Yep. Preseason's underway. The Nuggets Media Day is coming. It's getting there. Broncos coming off a win, trying to get a win streak. We'll break it all down tomorrow. Troy, our friend.
I'm going to go rent a U-Haul and go to Costco.
Yep. Do not tell me what you're shopping for. I don't want to know. That will do it for us today. Danny Bailey's the man that makes all of it work. Thank you so much. We appreciate you however you consume the show. He's Nate Lundy. I'm Sean Drotar. This is Mile High Sports.